And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. So excited for this one because we hear about this topic everywhere on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. It's either TikTok Shop or building landing pages. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Ryan to this live event. Ryan, please introduce yourself and tell us what are we going to talk about today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt. I'm Ryan Doney. I'm the co-founder of PageDeck, which is a headless landing page builder, mostly for Shopify. But if you run an e-com store and you want to build high converting landing pages, we think PageDeck is the easiest solution to do that. I've been in D2C specifically for 5 or 6 years now, and I've spent half of that time pretty much only focused on landing page funnels for paid acquisition. Before that, I was a developer for a while. I worked in an agency where I kind of got into more of the CRO side of things. So just kind of working with a bunch of different brands, a bunch of different agencies to kind of slowly step up until this point where we realized that there was room for another landing page builder in the space. So we went and built it.
Love it. I would love to know two things right away. First of all, how old is PageDeck? And second of all, tell me the story if it was difficult or not to get the domain, because it's pretty good domain, I have to say. It's so easy for me to remember. It's pagedeck.com. I mean, how was it? Did you pay for it like 100 grand like some people pay?
Not 100 grand, but we paid for it. It actually went right at the very, very beginning. We had the same name as my landing page agency, Ad Lunam, and didn't love the name for a product. So my co-founder and I were kind of throwing around a few different ideas, and I was super gung-ho about having a .com, just for the reason you said, like it being easy to remember. No one's ever going to try to email you and type like a .co or .io by mistake or something like that. So we bought it. It wasn't too expensive, but it is the most money that we spent up until this point on the product, actually, aside from our own time.
It's the reason why I bring it up is that very recently a friend called me on Saturday morning and he was like, "Man, I don't know what to do. Someone just threatened me that if I'm not gonna lock in the domain, they're gonna buy me. They're gonna buy the domain, and the price is gonna skyrocket." And the price for the domain was like 12 grand, and I was like,
Oh yeah.
"Shit, that's a big step to make." I mean, especially he's in very early stages. If you already have a product, then by all means, it makes sense to lock in the domain. But looks like you guys were lucky. So how long ago was it when you fully like went full mode on PageDeck?
We launched it publicly last September, so just before Q4. And that was an adventure trying to get brands to adopt a new SaaS right before the Q4 craziness started. But we've been fortunate to get some cool brands on the platform, and
You
yeah.
managed.
So I mean, what are we, like 8 months in at this point? It's not been a year.
Wow, that's crazy. So you managed to build to get something up and running for some brands before Black Friday, Cyber Monday?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of, calling in favors, sending emails, pinging my network, being like, hey, let us build a lander for you and test it out for Q4. So it was a lot of manual effort for that first month or so, just trying to get a bunch of pages built and test it out for that first period. But it worked, and a lot of brands did well. And a lot of those brands have stuck around still to this day.
Got it. Yeah. Oh, that's great to hear that they stay for long term. That's a good sign that you have a product market fit right there, ready to scale.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like people are resonating with it, which is nice. I mean, launching something new is always a little bit scary, especially in such a crowded space where there are so many different page builders, either landing page builders or website builders, on Shopify, off of Shopify. But we're trying to carve out a little space and differentiate a little bit and find the people who really want what we have.
Is your background is in coding? Is that right? Or you said you were doing something similar to that in the past. So, but is it strictly like advertising, like copywriting and design, or is it more on coding side?
Mostly coding. If you want to go way back, I guess my first job in like digital marketing, however you want to put it, was SEO. I was an intern at an agency, and my internship ended, and I was just kind of looking for something to do after that. And there was a local company here who had just launched a new website, and their organic rankings had all tanked, as often happens when you launch a new site without really worrying about all of your on-page stuff. So just kind of, I oversold myself a little bit, saying that I could get their rankings back up and kind of learned on the job a little bit. And that's, I mean, realistically, that's kind of what I've always been, is a little bit of a jack of all trades. Because even while I was mostly offering development services, both for my creative agency and as a freelancer, was always doing a little bit of everything. A little bit of SEO, a little bit of copywriting. And even when I was at the agency, my friend Zach started an agency called Homestead Studio a few years ago, and asked if I wanted to come on and head up the technical side. And that's where I really got into more of the, the paid media, the direct response, the e-com stuff. And so, I mean, I've just been sitting next to media buyers for the last 5 years, learning what they need.
Wow. Yeah, that's actually pretty great progress, because when you put this all puzzle together, that's a perfect timing for you to launch it, because you've collected so much data and so much experience throughout these years that you can combine it now into this product. And I mean, I played with it a little bit. It's definitely, you don't have to be a coder to build using PageDeck. So yeah, let's dive right in. I know you have a few slide decks or examples that you want to share with us, and I would like to focus on like maybe what do you see working really well in before obviously outside of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, because that's probably going to be different. But when it comes to like brands that want to start testing a lot more with running traffic to their landing pages, advertorial or listicles, etc. What do you see working well, and how can they leverage your tool, the data that you collect throughout this time, to scale faster?
Totally. I'm going to share, I'm not going to go through a whole slide deck or anything like that, but let me share one or two things. Because that's the conversation I have all the time with brands, is both like on the agency side and then on the PageDeck side, when we're onboarding new customers, people just want to know where to get started, right? Because this conversation has been happening in particular a lot more since iOS 14 happened 2 years ago, I think it was at this point, where all of a sudden Facebook ads became a lot harder, right? So people started to lean really hard into landing pages and CRO, and really thinking about post-click for the first time in a serious way. Because you couldn't just, for the first time, run traffic to your product pages and just have it work by default, because the targeting and platform had gotten so much worse. So over the last few years of testing these landing pages for a bunch of different brands and a bunch of different verticals, this is kind of the framework that I've landed on, that I kind of push brands towards if they're just getting started. And I call it the TAO framework, had to give it a name. It stands for template, angle, offer. So if you're going to get started with landing pages, these are the 3 things you need to worry about. And the idea is, when you launch a new page, you're only editing one of these variables at a time, either your template, which for me is, the design, the layout, the flow of the page. This, like you said, you could be a listicle, it could be an advertorial, could be what we call a shoppable page, this kind of more long form designed, almost like homepage looking design, where there's some more, design elements, some more sections in there. Testing the type of page, any kind of design iterations that you're going to do, whether it's, moving around sections, removing and adding new sections, just changing the design in any, really in any way. Or even, I would say most importantly, maybe not most importantly, but secondary to the type of page, if it's like a listicle versus an advertorial, something like that, is the type of CTA that you are going to drive traffic to. What I mean by that is this. I wonder if this link's going to open up. So if you think about on your landing page, the CTA of that page could be a number of different things. It could be a buy box like this, where it kind of looks like your product page, right? Like you can select your different variants. There's an image carousel and your prices and reviews. This experience generally either links people to the cart page or directly into the checkout, meaning that the only options that people have when they hit this landing page are either to buy something or they're going to bounce. So there was a time where this is kind of the default way of building landing pages in e-com, where you wanted to shorten the funnel, like reduce friction, like throwing around all these things that basically were making the customer journey super short and trying to like grab a quick conversion. What we've seen over the last few years is that doesn't necessarily work as well as it used to, at least not by default. It can work, I have a few notes in here. If you have like super aggressive offers, if you have, like bundles or free gifts, or if you're doing a specific campaign, like an influencer campaign, where the page is designed in such a way where it's like for, a specific influencer who's whitelisting for you or something like that. If you think that there's a chance for there to be enough urgency for someone to buy right away, by all means, this is the way to go. But in general, a lot of the landing pages that we see doing well for brands are less focused about getting a quick conversion right away and more about education, informing people about the product, particularly if you have like a higher price product or a product that's a little bit unique and requires more education for someone who may have not heard of your brand before. Instead of having a direct to checkout experience, you have just a link to your page, to your product page or to your collection page. The goal being that it's not so all or nothing. Like people don't have to either just buy or bounce and you lose them. They can click through to your site. They can learn a little bit more. They can shop around a little bit. Maybe you get an email sign up out of them, so you can hit them back up in Klaviyo then. A lot of the time, this type of flow ends up converting better on the front end. And I think it speaks to how much smarter consumers have gotten over the last few years, because we as advertisers have just been pounding people with Facebook ads for the last 10 years. And people are starting to get a little more sensitive to being sold to, I think. So having your landing page, instead of just linking to the checkout with a buy box, having some of these options where they can see a few different products and click through the product page. Maybe even having this kind of like fake buy box experience where this link then leads to the product page where they can, again, shop around, learn a little bit more. This, almost more than anything that I see on people's first version of a landing page, can make or break the performance. So if I tell brands to test one thing right away, it's that, like, create your landing page and then test the direct to checkout buy box versus having just a link through to the main site. That's a huge unlock for a lot of pages.
Quick question, because you covered great examples there. How is the decision made on which direction should they move first with? Is there based on like the industry or the amount of products they have, or maybe they're launching a new product and they want to use it for like how should they go about making a decision? Hey, I want to run with this template or this format versus the other.
Yeah, it depends so much on the product and the demo you're selling to. I would say there's very little precedent for like, this is always going to work better than this option. So that's why I say it should be your first test, because you just don't know until you end up getting people into that funnel and seeing how they respond and seeing which one does better. I will say that the link through to your website, either the PDP or collection page, kind of depending on the product, tends to be a safer option. When the buy box version works, it really, really works well. But if it's not the right fit, it can kind of ruin your campaign a little bit. So I think it's the first thing to test no matter what.
Got it. Okay.
So beyond that, and I'm not going to go into as much detail on the other two, but the second thing is the angle for your landing page. So once you've created your first version, the next thing you want to do is test different messaging and creative on that page. So even if you're changing nothing else about the design, you want to drill down on the specific messaging and creative that you're showing to people, particularly above the fold. Like if you launch a page and your bounce rate's super high, what you probably need to do is fix your headline and your above the fold creative to either make it match up with your ads a little bit better or just fit with some other type of messaging that you've seen do well, probably in your ad account. When you're testing these landing pages, that's always a really good place to go and look for inspiration, is what ads have done really well in the past. And if there's a particular headline formula, creative formula that's worked really well, put that above the fold on your landing page. Doesn't have to be one-to-one, doesn't have to be just like copying and pasting the same thing. But in general, we have found that landing pages that kind of echo the ad messaging above the fold tend to do way better at baseline. So, and there's a few different ways to test this. It could be, well, there's two options. You could either try to make one landing page that's going to kind of scale across your entire account. You're going to drive a bunch of different ads to one page. Or you can try to create individual funnels for different cohorts, let's say. So as an example, if you have, there's one brand that sells like alpaca wool socks. And what they did was they tested different ad angles in their account for different customer types. So best socks for hunters, for skiers, for hikers. And when they found one of those ad angles that worked really well, they took their landing page and duplicated it and then changed all the headlines and all the body copy to kind of be a little bit more targeted at that specific cohort. So there's, best socks for hikers, best socks for skiers. That type of messaging can work really, really well. Doesn't scale quite as well because you're then building a bunch of different pages across your account. But for a lot of brands that have those different use cases, it can be a huge unlock. And aside from that, you can do seasonal stuff like holiday sales, Black Friday sales, that kind of thing. And again, influencer stuff, if you're doing whitelisting campaigns, just kind of customizing the messaging to echo what's in the ad very simply. Finally, the offer. This one's a little bit more cut and dry, where in the same way that changing like the buy box versus CTA part of your page can be a huge difference, the offer can be often the biggest lever secondary to that, where if you're going to start from complete baseline, at least have something. Like, not every brand wants to run discounts. Not every brand wants to, like, people are sensitive to like diluting the value of their brand with discounts and stuff like that. Just like free shipping, fast shipping, made in the USA, like have something that is at least a like kind of an objection buster. So people feel a little bit of urgency on the page to like take that next action. So by default, if you can offer free shipping or fast shipping, something like that, that's great. If you want to get a little bit more creative, a lot of things that we've done in Page Deck are focused on letting brands very easily spin up like buy one, get one funnels, free gift funnels, bundle funnels, things that normally would, require you to go and find another Shopify app. We just want you to be able to put them on your lander. But regardless of how you do it, taking a landing page that's working and split testing the offer is a huge lever.
Makes sense. So you're not a big fan of offering products like at 80% discount if they buy 10 supplements. I know we talked about it before the call.
Yeah.
The good old funnels, I guess, landing pages funnels where you had like buy 10 bottles, save 80% or 95% savings if you buy X amount of bottles. That's might not be working that well anymore. But
yeah, it's so funny. It can work though, right? I mean, like you were saying on the call, like if you are a scrappy supplement company and the way that you have to compete is by offering insane discounts on big bundles, there are no rules at the end of the day. And there's a lot of old school direct response marketers that have really made that type of page work.
Absolutely. So I like this Tao framework. I really like it. It's never didn't hear it, didn't see that before this presentation. What are the typical like conversion rates that you see, or maybe something that stood out big time? Do you have some data to share as far as like conversion rates on landing pages on Page Deck versus like their typical their Shopify store or other landing pages they tried?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's so dependent on the brand, and I would say that there's no real like standard like this type of brand's going to get this type of conversion rate. So many factors, but really consistently, we have found that brands who invest in these landing pages see a conversion rate lift over the first 4 weeks. It takes work, obviously. It's not. I think the narrative became immediately when people started talking about landing pages again a few years ago that just by nature of you launching a landing page, it was going to save your entire ad account and you are going to be sitting pretty. That's not how it works. Unfortunately, you got to put in some effort here. But at the end of the day, what you're doing is creating more specific messaging for a more specific person who's coming from your ads. So if you can really dial in that messaging and dial in the page layout, it's just going to work better than your website.
Makes sense. Can you show us some examples and tell us how difficult or not is it to use Page Deck, build it, and what are the other benefits? Maybe let's if you can mention some site speed, because that's pretty important as well. I remember some funnels on ClickFunnels actually, and that was, I think, main concern from my experience that with media buyers and CMOs that I had a pleasure working with, that ClickFunnels is great to build all these funnels, landing pages, and whatnot so fast. When to build them, doesn't you don't have to be like a coder to build them, but they were so slow. So what's your take on that? And let's take from there.
Yeah, I mean, on the site speed side, I'll jump into just a demo page here. Let's try this one. This is like not a terribly complicated page. It's just a demo page, but if you look at what's on here, I mean, we have a carousel, we have 8 to 10 images, we have a bunch of different variants, reviews down here, images. So there's enough assets on this page that I think it's fair to say this is like a pretty normal amount of images and assets to have on the page. So if I just run like a lighthouse test, I'm going to make sure my cache isn't on. Cool. And again, Lighthouse isn't like a source of truth always. Like it's always going to be a little bit different depending on which time you run it. Even if you run 2 like speed tests right in a row, it's always going to be a little bit different. But with what we're able to do on PageDeck with optimizing your images, we statically generate these pages. That's a big deal. And basically what that means is when you press publish on one of these pages, it kind of compresses everything down and processes it into just a raw HTML page with some CSS and some JavaScript. There's no other big like platform code in it. We're able just to like separate the page code from the code that is used to run the platform. So this essentially becomes the same size as if you just had a developer like hard code an HTML page. And it's always really fast. The goal for us is no matter what you put into this page in terms of images, videos, tracking tags, all of that, it's always going to be fast no matter what. That's an ongoing process, obviously, and especially in terms of like third-party script tags and tracking tags. And if you have a giant GTM container you're going to throw on the page, there's only so much we can do because it's kind of outside of our platform. But there is some creative stuff that we're working on to try and get around that too. We just always think that you should be able to get a 90+ page speed score on your landing pages.
Do you see a lot of videos? You've mentioned videos. Do you see a lot of videos being implemented on landing pages?
Yeah, a lot, especially for like people who are running TikTok ads where it's so video native. It's so, people are so used to just like scrolling through, clicking and seeing, they're seeing video instead of images. People run listicles in particular that have GIFs in every position instead of images, which is normally a really tough thing to try and optimize for. But we kind of do the same thing, like being able to, if, for example, if a brand is running one of those pages and uploading 5 GIFs, we process them all down into MP4 files because MP4 files are smaller than GIFs. And then we lazy load them on the page. So it's not, when you first load the page, it's not waiting for all the videos to get loaded in before the page loads. Just doing stuff like that, like all this optimization stuff that is really hard to pull off with a lot of page builders, let alone like on your main website, on your Shopify site, and just making it really fast by default.
That's great. I mean, videos are so powerful, even though I'm a big fan of studying cognitive biases to not fall into their trap whenever I see any ads, especially in something I like. Nowadays, I have to go through the confirmation, my wife's confirmation, this is something I should be getting or not, obviously. But every time I'm really into something and I see that one video with 20-30 seconds of someone, an expert talking about it, maybe expert that I'm familiar with, just talking for 15 seconds about that particular product, it gives me that big impulse, like, all right, I'm doing the right decision. Confirmation bias kicks in. Let's click that add to cart button and move forward.
Totally. Well, especially for products that, like, if you can show them in use instead of just having a static, like showing someone taking it out of the box, using it for the first time, putting it together, it becomes so much more engaging when people have something to look at for more than half a second. And really consistently when we look at heat maps and scroll maps, those pages get a lot more engagement when this is talking about within that TikTok context. I don't think that videos are always the play, but for the same reason we run landing pages, like you are then building a page that matches your traffic source, matches the audience. So, giving them something that they're used to seeing in that context is huge.
I agree 100%. Do you have some examples for like a more educational focused? Because that was really interesting to me, the educational aspect. You've mentioned this being very important nowadays, especially with so many big claims that you see in health, beauty industries. Like every brand has something unique to in their products, and it's hard to find out as a consumer what if it's going to work, if it's something that actually is it something that you actually need. We talked about it before going live, that out of probably 85% of the supplements or things that I've tried actually did something. So maybe 50% did something, 85% pure placebo. Yeah. So I pronounce it.
Totally.
Yeah. So I think educational is expensive, but it most likely going to leave you with a long-term customer.
Totally. Yeah. I have a few examples in here that we can roll through. And for the record, some of these are PageDeck brands, some of them are not. I'm not trying to give away all of our brand secrets by default without permission, but looking at a few examples of like more education focused pages. So this brand, Stash Your Bag, if you go to, Target, Walmart, something like this, you've probably seen some of these bags. They are essentially Ziploc bag replacements where instead of these like single-use plastic bags, these are silicone, machine washable, dishwashable, however you would put that. Put them in the dishwasher.
I have not seen them.
What's that?
I haven't seen them ever before. I need to.
Oh, really?
It's super interesting.
They're cool. They're really cool. So good example for you then, because you haven't heard of this brand before. How do we communicate what this product is, what it replaces, and what the benefits are? So the main value prop here, stop throwing away money on plastic bags. Like, pretty simple. Save the ocean, leftovers, and your money with our eco-friendly, reusable storage bags. I think that's really important for an above the fold section. People tend to get either a little too wordy or a little too detailed in the amount of stuff they're trying to shove into that hero section. I think as much as you can shorten things, not necessarily at the expense of good copywriting, because that's important, but make it really easy for me to understand in half a second what this is and why I should buy it. So if I'm someone that cares about the environment and cares about money, this is probably a good product for me. Cool. And you can see it in use here. It's food storage. And as we scroll down, there's some more use cases. But as I scroll down here, social proof is huge. I always like to say as many different places as you can inject social proof into the page, you should do that. We do that on a lot of listicle pages too. Like in every single, like if you're doing the 5 reasons page, you have a headline and like the body copy for that section, and then just like put a little review in there that is relevant for that particular section. That in addition to having like a dedicated review section is huge. And you'll notice that this one is the second section on the page. A really good tip if you're trying to optimize these pages is go into your heat map software. There's an option called Microsoft Clarity that is huge. It's at clarity.microsoft.com. It's free. It's really, really great. They keep making it better. And you can see in Clarity how far people are scrolling down the page. And you really want to make sure that if you have a review section on your landing page, that it's above, say, the 50% average scroll depth. So get as many people as possible actually seeing reviews. That makes a really big difference in your conversion rate. So as I scroll down here, more education, right? Like this is the premium reusable storage bag that doesn't compromise. It has seal that doesn't leak. It's food safe. It's durable. It's dishwasher safe. Like at the end of the day, they worked really hard to nail down like what are the 3 biggest value props of this product, and it's in this section. And as I scroll down a little bit more, some more social proof in these press links, recognizable logos, which is always good. I think with these press bars, if the logos are weak, just don't use them. Like this demographic is going to know what Cosmopolitan and Bon Appetit and Wirecutter are, so it is valuable. But if it's just like you're shoving press logos in there just for the sake of having press logos, probably not super relevant to have this far up the page. Another eco-friendly value prop, something like this where you can say one stasher bag saves 260 single-use plastic bags, great value prop. Like I can very clearly visualize that. The image goes with it. Cool. And this page has that buy box that we were talking about. So this is the flow that they decided worked best for this product. But you could very easily have a section here that instead linked through to the product page instead. But this lets you kind of, you can go through the different colors, and you can see it took a second for that to load. That's that lazy loading that we're doing where it's not loading all of these massive images because these are from Shopify. Like brands can upload really big, like 1-2 megabyte images into Shopify, and we don't want those to pull down the page speed. So on that first time I clicked this variant button, it then went off to load the image. So I got it, but it didn't have to load right away on the page, on that first page load. I mean, that's a pretty good summary of this page. There's some more down here in terms of like the specifics of the bundle, some use cases, but you can kind of see like the flow we're trying to build here and the narrative we're trying to build.
I'm definitely willing to try it. Been actually preparing some meals recently, doing some meal prep and stuff. So I could use that for sure. One tricky question that I have for you: when you scroll up, you have the testimonial review section. With brands spending money on like buying reviews from reviews on Amazon, influencer UGC type of things, how do you make it credible? Or how can you make these reviews especially if it's like 5-star all across, make them credible. Maybe, and I'm talking too much from my perspective because we are on the back end of it as always, so we know how to build it, how to position it, etc. But what is your opinion on that? Like, how can we make these testimonials super credible so they're actually seem real to everyone?
Yeah, I think there's two things. One, as much as you can put a face to those reviews and actually have it be genuine. Like if in your reviews app, whether you're using, Looks or Okendo or Yapo or Judge.me, whatever it is, almost all of them have a review request feature that allows users to upload a photo. Try as much as possible to get people to do that, even if you have to incentivize them with, a small discount or something like that. Those are huge. And if there's one critique I could give to this section, it would be to have photos going along with these reviews. Ideally, ones that like show a human face and then show the product too. If you can like give people a little bit of directions, not just like, put the product down on the table and take an iPhone photo of it, doesn't look that great. So showing it in use is huge, but having customer photos is a really big piece. The second part, to your point of reviews that aren't genuine, I think consumers in general know that that's a thing, but I also think that having reviews is such a table stakes thing that not including them hurts you way more than including them and potentially having users think, oh, are these genuine? And you can do like some tactical things like this says the number of reviews, especially if it's a lot of reviews, like 30,000, anything over like a few hundred feels like a lot. So putting the number instead of like the star rating tends to convert better. Or if you don't have quite as many reviews, being genuine about the actual average rating. I think people are more than okay with something saying 4.3 out of 5 stars instead of 5 out of 5 stars, because nothing is 5 out of 5 stars, really, unless you're like curating your reviews inside of your reviews app, which is like technically not okay. I don't know the actual rules about that, but that's an FTC thing that might eventually come home to pasture. But having real ratings, so 4.3 instead of 5 out of 5 is totally okay. Showing the total number is huge, and having photos to go along with the reviews, I think are all really good levers to pull.
I agree with you. I would never question having reviews or testimonials. They're so powerful. I mean, they apply for every amount or product cost, whatever if you buy a cheap product, you sometimes maybe don't look at that many reviews. But if you buy something more expensive, I mean, even something as expensive as a car or some tech, you always look into like real reviews. At least I always do. And I know a lot of my friends, first thing before they make a major purchase, they go through hundreds of reviews. And then it's always so funny that again, the confirmation bias, when you made the purchase, then they always come up not with their experience, like, hey, I'm using it and I'm benefiting from it, but they then highlight and quote the testimonials and reviews others shared with them before they made a purchase. So everyone is talking about this product because X, Y, and Z, and I think they're super powerful. But it's so challenging nowadays to find actually authentic feedback on the product, because that's what it is. We want to know what problems people have encountered by using this product. What did it solve for them? How did it, change their life if it's something health related or beauty related? If you have some whatever acne or whatever, if it helped you. So those are always testimonials, reviews worth highlighting. I mean, we had actually in the beginning of our ecom time, we had a CBD brand, and this was like a tincture, but we had some of our customers use it like as a serum type of thing, and the results were phenomenal. I was so surprised. I don't know if this was actually the product or it was just the right timing or whatnot, but that had a big impact on the order volume. And it was like something that we leverage in our marketing, of course, because and we would never come up with this angle if we didn't have feedback from our customers. So feedback is definitely important.
Totally. Well, and two things on that note. One, in terms of, if you're a beauty brand selling an acne product, making sure that these reviews on your lander are about people who used it for acne, especially if it's like a multi-use thing where maybe it's a face wash that is, helps with acne, helps with aging, helps with, some other value props. Making sure you have reviews in here that are relevant to acne, if that is what's in your ad and those are the people that are coming to your page. That's another huge deal, just to make sure that everything's relevant. The second thing being, if you're talking about the type of research that you're doing where you want to like dig in a little bit more, sometimes you can do that with the type of page too. I think I have another slide in here somewhere where if you look at this type of page, this comparison page, this is a really popular thing for software that not a lot of e-com companies do, where it is a landing page that is, its purpose is to compare your product versus another. And in general, there's two ways to do this. The first is to stay alternative to popular product, like the best AG1 alternative, the best Magic Spoon alternative, whatever it is. If you're a small brand who's trying to position against a big competitor, that's a really great strategy because there's probably some search volume for that. And people are going to be comparing you to whatever the big incumbent is in your market. If you're a bigger brand and you're kind of one of the obvious choices within your niche, doing something like this, where it's Stanley Quencher versus Simple Modern Tumbler. The Stanley thing happened a few months ago and a lot of people were trying to get one, but a lot of people knew about Simple Modern already. It's a big enough brand that because the design is similar and they're probably seeing both products in the store when they're walking through, presumably a lot of people are looking for, all right, do I want this one or this one? Like, how do I directly compare these two? Like having an entire page that's only purpose is to directly compare your product to another one is a really great strategy that works for a lot of brands.
Wow, that's interesting. It's pretty bold.
Yeah.
But I can see it working for sure.
I mean, brands run those ads all the time. Like you see like those little like comparison chart ads, like here's Our Greens powder versus AG1. So why not build a page behind that kind of reiterates that same message?
I can see that, Google search ads where you type in software or whatever, and the first ad you see is like, don't use them, use us.
Yeah.
Type of ad. I think this would be definitely a solid landing page for that purpose.
Totally. Yeah. Historically, it's been like more of an SEO thing, I would say. But I mean, the messaging is relevant for anyone who's trying to make a purchase decision,
That's definitely something worth trying. I mean, there's so many things you should be testing. Now, tell me a little bit more about, again, how fast can a brand have a landing page up and running from like getting onboarded with PageDeck to publishing? The process, obviously not with like every little detail, but how long it usually takes, and do they have to have like a special team member, or do they have to hire a freelancer, an agency to do that? Can they do it themselves? That's kind of like my first question. A second question, if you can share a little bit about the analytics behind PageDeck, how can they test the efficiency and conversions, etc., on PageDeck?
Totally. So I'll address the analytics thing first because it's a little bit simpler. So right now we give brands the option to connect their GA4 account for two reasons. One, we wanted it to be something that they could track both their landing pages and their main website and have the data for both their product pages and their landing pages all in one place. Just simplify that a little bit. The second reason is we didn't want to introduce another third-party analytics tool into brands' e-commerce stacks, into their tracking stacks, however you want to put it. Attribution is hard enough as it is, in my opinion, like trying to figure out what is working and how do you separate landing page performance versus ad performance. I have found that in general, most e-com marketing teams tend to live in Platform, in Triple Whale, in Northbeam, in their larger attribution, third-party attribution solutions. So in terms of actual nuts and bolts landing page performance, we think GA4 does a great job. The problem with GA4 that most people have is it's hard to set up. So right now, when you connect your Google Analytics account in PageDeck, this gets connected to our A/B testing feature and it builds a little dashboard for you. What we're going to do is take that dashboard and we're going to surface it for the entire account. So you just get a view of how all of your landing pages are doing. And that'll allow you to easily compare your landing pages versus your product pages versus, whatever other pages you're testing. So that is the tracking piece. In terms of getting up and running, it was really important for us that PageDeck be easy to use without having to go and hire another contractor. That is one of the great frustrations that a lot of brands say they have when they switch to us is that I downloaded this page builder, but now I have to pay a developer to use the page builder that was supposed to do the work for me, and I can't actually edit everything myself. So where a lot of page builders right now are so focused on infinite customization options, super design focused, that's great, but it becomes a huge learning curve to learn to use those tools. So we wanted to build something that was really easy for media buyers, for the nimble marketing teams in ecom that are often only 2 people, 3 people at most for a lot of these brands. We want the people who are pulling the levers in the ad account to be able to go and spin up a landing page very easily and very easily be able to duplicate it, add new content, launch it. So in practice, what that looks like is if I go to new page, we have a few templates in here already. Our biggest push right now is building out the template library and the sections library. So over time, you're getting more choices, more flexibility, and more things to test. But what happens is if I duplicate even just, let's do this listicle template. If I come in here, my whole layout is done for me. So if I come into one of the sections, all I have to do is just, come in, add my new headline, and I'm going to check this on mobile. Looks good. All the typography sizes down, image sizes down. Great. The cool thing about this, if I do another template, is let's do another listicle. You can see by default, I have my brand fonts and my colors. If I come into the section and kind of scroll down to the settings down here, get rid of that. I can do light mode and dark mode. I can kind of change the colors for each section. We want everything to be intuitive for someone who's not a designer is the whole goal here. So we've kind of made some decisions for you in terms of the design of each section. So you don't have to be clicking and dragging and spending hours trying to center a text box, which is the entire frustration that I've had with page builders in the past. If you want to edit this page, just come, you can pick a new section, you get a little preview. And when I add this, the design piece of it is just done for me. The last thing that I'll say is if I go back to, this example page I was on before, something really complicated like this buy box would be a really hard thing to build in a lot of page builders because you think I have my image carousel, I have all my variants, my subscription widget. If I add a new buy box, I'll drag this up to the top so you can see it. All I have to do is I'm going to go back to this brand's main website. I'll go to fray.com, close out my speed test. If I go and grab a different product, what's in here already? The liquid detergent. So if I go to their sheets product, I'm just going to grab the URL from up here and come into my section. So right now there's no product in here. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go to the section called product link, paste it in, sync it up. And this just pulls everything out of Shopify for me. So by default, I have all my images and variants and my subscription widget. I just got to tell it where my checkout lives. So it knows where to push all of the checkout sections into. If I just select a variant, add a subscription, hit add to cart, what this does is just push me into a preloaded cart with the right variant, the right subscription plan, everything just works. So again, we give you a little bit of customization options. Like if I want to, change this selector to be a drop-down menu or swatches instead of those buttons, I can do that. But there's not as much customization options around clicking and dragging, reordering, that kind of thing. We've built the sections to look good at all screen sizes, to convert well based on other pages that we've tested. You just add your content and we do the hard part for you.
Wow, that was way easier than Webflow design that I was playing with last weekend. Man, this was so complicated to do anything. I mean, I'm not into coding and stuff, but it's supposed to be super simple over there, but it's not. This is way easier.
Yeah, I mean, that was the goal, right? There are a lot of versions of Webflow out there, and Webflow is amazing, and no one's going to out Webflow. So there's all of the very customizable, design-focused landing page builders. We want to be on the opposite end of the spectrum, very easy, very fast, easy for marketers to use.
Yeah, I mean, especially the conversion from desktop version to mobile was a nightmare. And I mean, maybe because I'm doing it for second time in my life or third, but that was I could do it. I could crash it on the first one. And you know what? An idea came to me that maybe one day we should do a 20-30 minutes live event again, and we would use ChatGPT and pick a brand, any brand, to come up with like pain points, do some research using ChatGPT, and then come up with a landing page in like 10, 15 minutes live.
Yeah, that'd be fun, man. Let's do it. We do that exercise all the time. Like, how quickly can we get a page up and running for a new brand?
That would be great to play with. And I can see we could actually do something pretty solid in like 10, 15 minutes.
Totally. Yeah. And even if it's a pretty good version, like there's always going to be little things you can tweak. Like you can tweak the colors and the fonts and all the details here. You can add new images to the carousel. But the big thing that I want brands to be able to do is get something in market and testing as quickly as possible. Because what often happens is people want to launch a landing page, but then it turns into like a 3 or 4 week design and development project where there's edits going back and forth, and you got to go from Figma into your page builder, and you got to tweak things in your page builder to look good on mobile. That just prevents you from launching and actually learning, because fundamentally you don't know if that page is going to work or not. So my opinion on the whole thing is, let's get a version that's 90% done up as fast as possible. And if the concept works, then we can start iterating, making it better, tweaking the details. But you're actually making that decision based on performance instead of just guessing. Because there's nothing more frustrating than spending 4 weeks on a page and you launch it and it flops. If you do it this way, if something flops, that's fine. You only spent, an hour on it instead of 4 weeks.
100%. This is a huge thing. And if I can quote Michael Masterson, it's not really D2C type of title, but Ready, Fire, Aim. I don't know if you read his book.
I'm familiar. I haven't read it, but I'm familiar with it.
It's he has a bunch of books on like copywriting and marketing, but this was pretty interesting book especially for B2B in a B2B space. But what I'm trying to say is that if you have this 3 weeks project to design a landing page, launch it the first day, and then spend the next 20 days, editing, tweaking, optimizing, and doing all the rest. Because if you're going to take, like you said, 3 weeks to get the first version live, and it's going to be a flop, I mean, you wasted probably a ton of hours, to designer hours, if you pay them, unless you do it yourself. But yeah, that will be something. And I remember how much fun it was. I still vividly remember Cloud and I sitting in the backyard for 12 hours straight, building funnels. And I mean, it wasn't a funnel, like a landing page, actually, funnel, because we had to design the checkout page on, I think it was ClickFunnels back then, like 5 years ago or so. And it's definitely fun experience. And especially if you launch it and it starts performing, that's even greater. I wanted to ask you as a final question, where can people find you? How can brands get started with PageDeck? But I mean, it's as simple as pagedeck.com, no?
Yeah, pagedeck.com. Click the sign up button or join now, whatever the CTA says in the upper right hand corner. You can sign up for free and start playing with it. You only have to actually pay for a billing plan once you're ready to launch the page. So you can log in, get a feel for it, like try a few different templates, and once you're ready to launch, then you can activate your account and click publish and get ready to go.
I didn't know that too. That's pretty amazing. And if people have questions, they can always find you on LinkedIn or Twitter. Fairly easy to find on these platforms, or comment below this video if they have any specific questions. And thank you so much. Feel free to stay on for another minute. We'll just say goodbye to everyone who tuned in. We had 33 people as of now, so excited to hear their feedback, and looking forward to another live one day.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt. It was fun.